Hello, hello. So we're doing an introduction and after that, start the session.
It's not audible. കേൾക്കണ്ട.
Sir പറയുന്നത് കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട്.
ഞങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞ് കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല ഇവിടെ.
ഇപ്പൊ പറയാൻ പോകുന്നു.
ഓ അതാ.
We'll be starting the session. Good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone today for the pre-conference session of the annual Undergraduate International Academic Conference, Spasht 2022. I would like to welcome all our eminent speakers from different walks of life who have come here to share their knowledge and experience to this vast student community. I'd like to introduce the speakers of the panel. First, I would like to welcome Dr. Sudhiran K., the Clinical Associate Professor, Department of Neurology, Neuro-immunology Lab, Amrita Institute of Medical Science, Kochi. I welcome you, sir. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. Annama Mattai, Research Scientist, Department of Neurology, Neuro-immunology Lab, Amrita Institute of Medical Science, Kochi. I welcome you, ma'am. Now, I would like to welcome Dr. Chirag Lalwani, House Surgeon, Amrita Institute of Medical Science, Kochi. I welcome you. Now, I would like to welcome our participants. We hope that the session is informative and you will get an insight into autoimmune neurology. So, we'll be starting off the session.
Screen sharing. Okay. At the onset, I want to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Oh, my slides are visible. Is that, yeah. So it is autoimmune neurology, the newest subspecialty in neurology. Its spectrum intersects. Am I audible?
Sir, you're audible, but we can't see your screen.
Oh, is it?
PowerPoint.
Okay, so okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, yeah. So autoimmune neurology is the newest subspecialty in neurology. So I thought it will be exciting for you to get to know about this. So it's called emerging 21st century subspecialty. So it is the newest specialty, and its spectrum intersects all the traditional subspecialties of neurology. These are the traditional subspecialties of neurology: movement disorders, epilepsy, behavioral neurology, neuromuscular, autonomic, demyelinating disease, neuro-oncology, and so-called degenerative. Movement disorder include Parkinsonism, ataxia, myoclonus, so many diseases are. Epilepsy, seizures. Behavioral neurology include dementias. Neuromuscular include neuropathies, myopathies. Autonomic means autonomic nervous system involvement in the form of PODS, orthostatic hypotension. Then demyelinating disease include multiple sclerosis, neuromyelitis optica, all those things. And on neuro-oncology, this include mainly the paraneoplastic syndrome. Paraneoplastic syndromes are the syndromes caused by cancer. The patient will have a cancer and they will have an autoimmune neurological syndrome. The immune system of the body is working against this cancer, but it is cross-reacting with the nervous system. Degenerative disorders are dementias, Parkinsonism, and then motor neuron. So many entities are there. There's no effective treatment for them, and we have discovered that many of them are treatable as they are autoimmune. So this is a slide from my mentor, Sean Pittox. You can see that any part of the nervous system can be involved in an autoimmune neurological disease. It can be cortex, it can be subcortical structure, hypothalamus, thalamus, basal ganglia, optic nerves, brainstem, cerebellum. It can be spinal cord, it can be autonomic nervous system, it can be somatic nervous, it can be muscles and neuromuscular junction. So many entities. So neuroimmunology versus autoimmune neurology. So this is autoimmune neurology is the term which was coined by Mayo Clinic to denote the newer entities. There are many immune diseases existing before also. Just to differentiate it from multiple sclerosis and related disease, they coined the term called autoimmune neurology. The fellowship program was started by these are the stalwarts of autoimmune neurology. This is Professor Angela Vincent from Oxford University. This is Professor Vanda Lennon from Mayo Clinic. She's my mentor. This is Professor Joseph Dalmau from Barcelona. He was in University of Pennsylvania before. So this is the history of autoimmune neurology fellowship program. Meng Tan from Australia was the first person. Then Andrew McKeown in 2008 and 9 was the second person. He's a faculty there. Meng Tan is in Australia. Paul Austin was the third person. I was the fourth person to be trained in this. So looking back, it is believed that there will not be an entity called autoimmunity. So as a term called horror autotoxicus, coined by Paul Ehrlich, that never there will be any self-destruction. So that was a firm belief, and some subtle evidences came later, like Lee cell ANA came in 1957, rheumatoid factor was described in 1939, DNA antibody was detected in 57, anti-SM antibody in 1966. So this is Vitebsky. So he, along with Rose, created an experimental evidence that autoimmunity can occur. Rose was working on thyroid antigens. So just to animal to rise antibodies. On autopsy, they found that there is an immune reaction to the thyroid. So then they injected one half of thyroid from same animal into the same animal, and again there was thyroiditis, which was looking like a Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So this is how the autoimmunity was experimentally proven, and the long-held dictum that there is no autoimmunity was challenged in 1956. So this Vitebsky is in fact Ehrlich's student. So he disproved his mentor's theory. This is Noel Rose, and he worked in Johns Hopkins Hospital. You can see the picture. This is Mayo Clinic in building where I was trained. So what is the role of Mayo in autoimmune disease? Like the cortisol was first, Mayo was closely involved with the development of the drug as well as drug testing. So they inject. These are the doctors who got Nobel Prize. From this is Kendall, I think this one, this is Kendall, that biochemist, and this is the Mayo physician who got the Nobel. You can see the Nobel certificate here. I used to walk beside this in Mayo, and one day only I went and closely had a look and took photographs. So Mayo certificate, the Nobel certificate was hanging unnoticed. Vitebsky postulates is the postulate that should be fulfilled to make the diagnosis of autoimmunity. So direct transfer of antibody or pathogenic T cell should produce the disease. That is the hardest evidence. And direct evidence is like experimental animal. And circumstantial evidence is that what we use. We discover an antibody, then we give treatment and patient improve. So direct evidence, like, that I'm going to show you. This is myasthenia. This is how the acetylcholine antibodies Acetylcholine was injected in the animal, and the animal were developing myasthenia. You can see this animal lying flat here. This is the normal animal. So when acetylcholine was injected, the animal developed myasthenia. So that is how the antibodies role in myasthenia was proved. Myasthenia is a disease characterized by double vision, drooping of the eyelid, and proximal weakness and bulbardism, difficulty in swallowing. This is caused by an antibody against neuromuscular junction. And this is how accidentally that disease was proved by injecting acetylcholine for purification in an animal developed laxity. So this is with our team in Mayo Clinic. This is Professor Van Dalen, and this is Sean Pittock, and this is McKeown, and this was our resident at that time. I was a fellow here. This is my other fellows. So this is Owen Flanagan, who is a big leader in autoimmune right now. At this time, was a neurology resident. So history of autoimmune neurological disease, like I was telling, myasthenia was well described before it was known to be autoimmune in 1672. The physostigmine and pyridostigmine working on it was discovered in 1934 accidentally. Thymectin was also found to be useful. Steroid was also found to be helpful, but autoimmunity was not proved. So I have shown you that like the animal developing a disease by injection of acetylcholine when they develop antibody. This was described by Patrick and Lindstrom in 1973. So a lot of antibodies are there. PCA-TR was the first antibodies against nervous system described in 1976. It is believed that you will never develop antibody against nervous system because it was thought to be an immune privileged site. But later antibodies came one after the other. The slow flow was very slow till 99. Now you can see yearly 1 or 2 is coming. But in this last decade, there are enough antibodies. I am not putting the list because it's going to be very huge. I have to put many slides. This is a map of neuroimmunology laboratory, dedicated neuroimmunology laboratories with an intention and facility and presence of trained personnel for research. This is very rare in the world, and we have one here in Amrita. So now we'll go to the different entities. So autoimmune encephalitis is the most common autoimmune disease of the current era. So this is a new entity, though it was first described probably in 1960s, 1 or 2 cases. It is believed to be very rare, but in last 1 decade, it is found to be as common as viral encephalitis. Like there are 2 studies, one from California, one from Olmsted County Mayo Clinic. They showed that the incidence of autoimmune encephalitis as common as a viral encephalitis. So it will mimic a viral encephalitis. Viral encephalitis will have some fever, headache, altered sensorium, seizures, drowsiness. And all the tests will become normal, and it's diagnosed by doing viral panel in CSF. So this also will mimic like that. But why we need to understand this? If you don't know this is an autoimmune disease, you will treat with antivirals and patient will not benefit with that. So it's very important. Now to get you people a feel about what is happening, I'll show you a video of a New York Post journalist who developed anti-NMD encephalitis. Just see this, so you'll get a feel of this.
Then after that, I feeling very tired and lethargic, and really, I just didn't want to go to work. I felt not like myself. And then I started having numbness in my hands and my feet. And at that point, after that, I started acting paranoid. I had because good part of the month that I was in the hospital, I had to sign medical records, interviews with doctors, interviews with my family, interviews with my boyfriend. Pretty much I had to just recreate that time using skills to journalize. There's video that exists of me in the hospital. When I watch it, very much I'm watching this other Susanna, other person that's so far divorced from who I am now. She's frightened, she's angry, she's terrifying. And in a lot of ways, I've been trying to reconcile who that person was with who I am now. And kind of part of me is this kind of monstrous person. And through the course of researching this, I've come a little bit closer to understanding that other Susanna, but she's always a stranger. She's someone who I have to dig really deep outside of myself to really understand. I have to ask other people. I have to read pages of medical get anywhere close to understanding who that person is. Towards the end, I stopped being paranoid and I started to stop having hallucinations and started becoming catatonic. I just had I hardly moved, I had no emotional register. I just kind of stared off into space. I had very rigid movement. And basically, now I know, this was back then after my research, that I was heading towards most likely have been a coma. And for some people, death. I was ultimately diagnosed by Dr. Suel Mujar at NYU. He was the first doctor to really sit down and see the whole picture. The bed bugs, the paranoia, the hallucination, the catatonic state. He also noticed I had high blood pressure. At one point when he visited me for the first time, he did something that no other doctor asked me to do. He asked me to draw blood. And it's a very simple procedure. I had gone through $1 million worth of blood tests, MRIs. This is one clear step that he asked me to cost nothing. Basically, he gave me a piece of paper and asked me to draw in 1 through 12. And I drew every single one of those numbers on the right-hand side, showed that I had inflammation on the right side of my brain. After a brain biopsy and spinal tap, they ultimately diagnosed what is called anti-NMDA receptor autoimmune hepatitis, which is, in short, when your body's immune system attacks. The hardest part for me was the recovery, and it was the hardest part to write as well. At that point, I had lost my identity, who I was. Everything about my personality was just gone, and I had to rebuild that from scratch. I'm reminded of the scar I have in my brain where I'll never be the same person that I was before. And I think it's given me such purpose in my life because I feel like this story and living through this horrible time given me, the strength to help other people, the ability to help people. It's the most wonderful.
This is her book, so I hope you get a picture of NMDA receptor. And so now I'll show you a poem written by, and this is a patient. This is an abnormal movement shown by one patient with NMDA receptor encephalitis. I'm going to show you that. There's some problem with the video. Just wait. Directly show the video if it is playing. We can forward and okay.
But it's sharing the other screen as a thing. We have to open it and then we have to choose that video.
Sure. So this is the state of affair with the patient with NMDA. Now I'll show you the I hope you can see the slide. So this is a poem written by one of my patients once he recovered from NMDA encephalitis, an IIT student. So you can see her memory was impaired, cannot eat or drink, cannot speak, can hear horrible things, that is hallucinations, then seizures, then memories are gone, legs and hands are not following command, and she is warning that everybody may not survive, disease may relapse. So this is the real picture of NMDA. So now I'm going to show you another autoimmune encephalitis called LGI encephalitis.
Okay, all right, Okay. Well done, sweetheart.
So you could see her left hand and face moving.
Okay, all right, Okay.
So that is called facial-brachial dystonic seizure. So if you know that, you understand that, you can treat that. This was believed to be very rare, and here you can see this in the first graph. No, they were not improving with anti-epileptic drugs. Now here you can see after adding steroids, they improved. Steroids are immunosuppressive drugs that will reduce the production of these antibodies. So now you can see that this autoimmune encephalopathy can affect any areas like limbic system, extra limbic, basal ganglia, cerebellum, brainstem, spinal cord. There are so many antibodies. You can see the names, and one antibody can attack different parts of the nervous system. This is a case treated by me, a 6-year-old boy from another country. He was normal till 2 years of age. Then he developed reduced sleep, anxiety, constipation, loss of motor milestone, speech, motor automatism, loss of eye contact with parents, loss of affection. So it was thought to be autism. MRI brain was normal. So all the tests were done in Mayo and Philadelphia. Children where patient was treated earlier was normal, but we found newer antibodies on his serum and CS. So we treated him with immunotherapy, the steroids, immunoglobulins, and patient responded. This is a perfect example where an autoimmune disease can mimic a degenerative disease. This is another case from NEJM where a 43-year-old man with orthostatic syncope. That means he will stand, then he will develop blurring of vision and falls down. He had other things like dry mouth, urinary retention, decreased sweating, all due to dysautonomy. Then difficulty in focusing near object because his pupils are dilated, cannot contract for a near vision. Early satiety, painful abdominal distension, severe constipation, weight loss. Underwent surgery for bowel obstruction, no benefit. Underwent surgery for trigger ejaculation, no benefit. So these findings were there, like very dilated bowel loops, pushing the liver away, painfully distended abdomen, dilated pupil. So they found a new antibody at that time called neuronal ganglionic acetylcholine receptor antibody. Patient improved with plasma exchange and later treated with steroids and azathioprine, and patient improved. This is a good example. They can go to urologists, gastroenterologists, and so many people, even to cardiologists when they become fainting. And diagnosis will be missing. And after 20 years also, when treated, they are improving. Then these are the other entities like autoimmune epilepsy. Now more and more cases are being discovered as autoimmune epilepsy because they improve well with immunotherapy, not with the drugs, anti-epileptic drugs. Then autoimmune dementia is also coming up in a big way. Now, degenerative disease mimicking autoimmune disease mimicking degenerative. One example is this IgLon5 antibody. You can see this patient's describing this.
La empecé hace 5 años. Empecé con las piernas que no podía andar, me dolía mucho y me caía y no me sujetaba. Y la voz cada vez iba peor a peor. El sueño, antes dormía muy poco, pues chillo, hablo mucho, canto. Eso, como me gusta cantar y no tengo voz.
So here up gaze pulse means patient cannot
Siga
look
el dedo
up or
despacito.
down.
Sígalo, sígalo, sígalo.
Up and down she cannot
Todo el
look,
rato.
but side to side she could move properly. You see this?
Siga el dedo. Eso. Despacito.
It was difficult for her to walk. After immunotherapy, you see what is happening. 5 days of methylprednisolone.
Con un apoyo, ¿no?
Sí.
A ver.
Uy.
This anti-IGLON 5 can present with neuropsychiatric manifestation, sleep disorder, bulbar dysfunction, oculomotor abnormality, PSP-like syndromes, and cognitive impairment. Then this is an entity which we discovered. It's called autoimmune atypical Parkinson. Atypical Parkinson's are bad degenerate disease. Regular Parkinson will start with the tremor on one side and slowly progress. They respond well to levodopa, but typical Parkinson, they develop very fast. They'll have swallowing difficulty, memory problems, early falls, bowel bladder problems, and there's no treatment. They die, become bedbound and die. So this is our discovery, published in Journal of the Neurological Sciences. Now you can see such a patient. This man is thought to be multiple system atrophy. His fate was to die only. This would have developed over 6 months.
टर्न हो जाइए.
After 5 days of treatment, he is walking like this. 1 month after treatment, again, he is better only. So this is the importance of testing this antibody and treating. Another entity is called GFAP antibody. There are many syndromes, but it can mimic meningitis. We'll think that it's an infective one, giving anti-TB. Other treatment patient will not improve. Then other one is a MOG antibody. There are so many, but only important things I'm talking. Unilateral optic neuritis, bilateral optic neuritis, acute disseminated encephalomyelitis, transverse myelitis, meningoencephalitis, a new syndrome called flames. The list of the antibodies is an old list. You can see so many antibodies are listed. It's an old 10-year ago. So this is where the importance of neuroimmunology laboratory comes. The laboratory will come help you to identify these laboratories. Antibodies are markers of this disease. So first dedicated neuroimmunology laboratory started in India in Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences in Kochi in May 2013. Started with testing for 5 types of antibodies. Now we are testing nearly more than 53 types of antibodies. This is our training area. So throughout the country, we are getting samples. This is our humble beginning. We're in a small room with very few staff. This is Professor Anand Kumar, this is myself, Annama Madam, and technician Anuja. So this is how our team has expanded, and now we have service to collect samples across the country. This is the first book on autoimmune neurology, came in 2016. These are our significant contribution. We discovered that AMPA antibody can produce with Parkinson's. This is written by Chirag Lalwani, who was a medical student when he started working with us. So when he was an intern, he could publish this, and this was presented in American Academy of Neurology meeting. This is another new syndrome we described. Facial cruel dystonia seizure and atypical Parkinson's as a feature of LGA1 antibody. This is again a Casper2 antibody presenting with Parkinson's and ataxia. Another paper on Proson. So many we have written. So there is a good opportunity for medical students to come and work. Chira has already written 4 papers. I think one got published, 2 are under review. 1 is under review, 2 are nearing completion. So autoimmune neurology being a new area, there is a rapid growth in the entities, types, There is good opportunity for original publication in leading journals and presentation in Indian Academy, American Academy. Already medical students are presented in Indian Academy this year, 2 papers. American Academy, they have presented 5 papers. So there is very good opportunity for medical students to collaborate with us. We can make you understand and help you to come out with, like Chirag has described, the first AMPA receptor antibody mediated Parkinsonism, which will be a landmark in the long run. This is the part of our work where we are trying to prove that Parkinsonism is caused by autoimmune. So Chirag's contribution will be great, and he has written another paper on double negative myasthenia, like acetylcholine antibody and MuSK antibody negative myasthenia. He has written another paper on double positive NMO spectrum disorder, that is NMO and MOG positive. So there is enough space for medical students to come and work with us in a cutting edge areas, and a good chance for publication, presentation, and all. So coming to the conclusions, a newest specialty, 21st century specialty. Spectrum is very wide. It is very rapidly expanding because it's a newborn. Newborn grows faster. It's often mistaken as neurodegenerative. Markers are very important in diagnosis. Early diagnosis and treatment is very important for a good outcome. A great role is there for a dedicated neuroimmunology. There's a great hope for cure. So I invite all of you to come and work with us and develop more and more newer data and information on this area. Thank you for the patient listen.
Thank you so much, sir, for the talk. Now we'll be accepting questions in the chat box.
Yeah. First question is, what actually causes anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis? So actually it is caused by the antibodies against NMDA receptors. Then the question will come, what is causing these antibodies to come? Nobody knows. In very few patients, teratoma is causing this. In even lesser number of patients, other tumors can produce this. A few number of patients, it can develop after an infection. Second question is, what are the signs of atypical Parkinsonism? Atypical Parkinsonism is caused by, like, it's a big box actually. There are so many things like progressive supranuclear palsy, where you can see that the upgaze is restricted. In multiple system atrophy, you can see cerebellar signs and dysautonomia. In corticobasal syndrome, you can see significant dementia. And in dementia with Lewy bodies, you can see visual hallucinations, psychiatric symptoms, and Parkinsonism. What is the life expectancy of patients with the dysautonomia? So as such, there is no data. Bad dysautonomia, death can happen, but generally it causes more disability, like they cannot stand or walk. And is Rasmussen encephalitis an autoimmune? Yeah, exactly. Rasmussen is an autoimmune mediated disease. Initially, it was thought to be caused by mGlu-R3 antibodies, an experimentally proven thing from Duke University. They injected mGlu-R3 antibodies into an animal, and animal develops unilateral seizures, and then they thought, and it got published in Science in 1994. Subsequently, in 2005, a group of researchers from Europe, Germany, UK, they found that it is not exactly causing the disease. Yeah, immunotherapy is part of the treatment of Rasmussen, but as per the current literature, hemispherectomy is the only treatment. I still feel that intense immunotherapy regimens will save the patient even without surgery. I've answered everything. Yeah, one has come. So could you share chronic fatigue syndrome? So it has got a criteria. So Personally, I have not come across anybody like that. I have one patient who came with a similar syndrome. But on close examination, I found that it's a mixture of few diseases like patient has got mild myasthenia, autonomic neuropathy, and all. So as such, I don't get anything because I look all these cases from a different angle, like components. So I always feel that these are all multi-axial neurological syndromes where neuromuscular junction, peripheral nervous system, autonomic nervous system, and the multiple other areas like extrapyramidal systems are involved. So I don't come across. So if you see anybody with a chronic fatigue syndrome, I would like to see them to see what it is.
Thank you so much, sir, for the informative session. We'll be, sir, sorry, there's one more question, sir.
Yeah. What are the? Yeah, so it's a very important question Mahima has asked. So what are the clinical features? So I would say that irrespective of whether autoimmune or non-autoimmune, what are the determinants of symptoms of a neurological disease? It is the symptoms occur because of the dysfunction of the different parts of the neuroaxis, and symptoms vary from which part is affected. So there is nothing that only autoimmune can be affected. But in autoimmunity, what we see regularly is a constellation of symptoms, multi-axiality. So one of the commonest cause for dysautonomia is this. One of the commonest cause for fatigable neuromuscular weakness is this. So that is what we utilize in our practice, looking for multi-axiality. Then we look for any family history of autoimmunity, which makes the pretest probability for an autoimmunity high. Then we do laboratory workup to prove that. And this is how we work. So the autoimmune encephalitis will have one set of symptoms. Autoimmune neuropathy will have another set of symptoms. Autoimmune myopathy will have another set of. So symptoms can vary. Sometimes symptoms can mimic, but it depends upon which part of the neuroaxis is involved. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll be moving on to the next speaker.
നന്നല്ല
സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യട്ടെ, കൈ കാണിക്കണേ. Good morning to all of you. The topic for my presentation is laboratory evaluation of autoimmune neurology disorders. To start with, the discovery of a disease marker in autoimmune neurology. This is a case study. A 33-year-old lady admitted with a history of diplopia, slurred speech, and gait instability. She was recovered from a common cold 2 weeks before. On clinical examination, it is observed that she has dysarthria, limb and gait ataxia. MRI, brain and spine are normal. Examination of CSF showed 44 lymphocytes per microliter with few plasma cells and mild blood-brain barrier dysfunction. There was a CSF-restricted oligoclonal bands observed. Serology and PCR for infection was negative. Routine blood analysis was normal except for a slightly on the next slide, enter. Is enter നോക്കി. Okay, thank you. This slide describes the discovery of a disease marker in autoimmune neurology. This is a case study. A 33-year-old lady admitted with history of diplopia, slurred speech, and gait instability. She was recovered from a common cold 2 weeks before. On clinical examination, it was observed that she has dysarthria, limb and gait ataxia. MRI, brain and spine were normal. On examination of CSF, it was found 44 lymphocytes per microliter with few plasma cells and mild blood CSF barrier dysfunction. CSF-restricted oligoclonal bands were also observed. Routine blood analyses were normal except for a slightly elevated titer of serum anti-nuclear antibodies. The diagnosis was post-viral cerebralitis cause autoimmune. Paraneoplastic and autoimmune antibody testing in serum and CSF were normal. Discovery of a disease marker in autoimmune neurology. Is this ataxia caused by any unknown antibody? In order to find the unknown antibody, they have done an immunofluorescence using mouse cerebellar tissue. It was seen that the binding of CSF IgG to molecular layer, Purkinje cell layer, and white matter. So it indicates an autoimmune etiology. Detection of unknown antibody. This slide shows an unknown antibody from patient's serum selectively binding to Purkinje cells. Now, an autoimmune etiology was observed in this case of cerebral ataxia. Next. These are the steps to look for a new or unknown antibody in autoimmune neurological diseases. One is tissue-based assay by immunofluorescence, tissue-based assay by immunohistochemistry, protein-based assay by Western blot, protein-based assay by line blot, radioimmunoassay using radioisotope, enzyme-linked absorbent assay using enzymes such as horseradish peroxidase, cell-based assay using HEK, human embryonic kidney cells by immunofluorescence, antibody microarray, mass spectroscopy to measure the molecular mass of the target protein. Why immunologists prefer mouse brain tissue section for antibody detection? It's not because mouse brain is a miniature version of human brain, but it's because mouse is biologically very similar to humans, and many of the mouse proteins have extensive homology with the human counterpart. This forms the basis of using mouse brain as a model for corresponding human brain to explore the expression and distribution of proteins in various regions and cells of the brain. This slide shows how the brain, mouse brain is dissected out. For that, we prefer an adult albino outbred male mouse. Mouse is sacrificed with carbon dioxide inhalation and brain is dissected out. This is the method of dissecting out. This is the full brain. You can see olfactory bulb, cerebral cortex, cerebellum, and brainstem. These are the ventral and dorsal and ventral view of the mouse brain. This is a sagittal side and this is an axial side, axial view. Methods of tissue freezing. First method is fresh mouse brain is frozen in tissue freezing medium. Second method is fresh mouse tissue fixed in 4% paraformaldehyde, cryoprotected in sucrose, and snap frozen with liquid nitrogen, isopentane, and embedded in tissue freezing medium. The embedded brain tissue is frozen in a cryostat at -20 degrees. This is the picture of a cryostat. You can see the slide door. Freezing temperature is inside. Frontal panel controls are there. Hand wheel is there. And waste collection goes here. This is the functional parts of the cryostat microtome. This is display shows this is the panel, control panel, by which we can adjust the microns of the section, 10 microns, 8 microns, 20 microns, like that. Then this is the cooling panel, freezing shelf. This is the block, and this is the knife holder. Cryostat sectioning using brush technique. This is the block which contains the embedded tissue. A knife is here, knife holder is there. Cryostat sectioning technique, that with brush only. This is one section coming which is cut. This contains our tissue also. Along with the tissue, it is cut. The section is taken. This section is taken on a microslide, and the sections are preserved at -20 degrees centigrade in a deep freeze for future use. This is the schematic view of mouse brain sagittal section. You can see olfactory bulb, cerebral cortex, hippocampus, caudate putamen, thalamus, hypothalamus, midbrain, cerebellum, pons, medulla, spinal cord, and substantia nigra. This is the protocol we use for indirect immunofluorescence staining. The tissue section slides are taken from the freezer and allowed to dry at room temperature. Fix the section in cold acetone, wash with wash buffer, incubate the section with the patient serum 1:10 dilution for 30 minutes, wash the section with for 30 minutes in wash buffer. Incubate the section with anti-human IgG, FATC conjugated for 30 minutes. FATC is the dye is a fluorescent dye. Fluorescent isothiocyanate is the conjugate we use, universally use. Wash, mount and observe under fluorescent microscope. Apple green color indicates a positive reaction. This is detection of neuronal autoantibodies in the clinical laboratory. This is the patient's antibody, IgG antibody. This section is here, mouse brain section is here. This is the immunohistochemistry stained. Here it comes Western blot. Lines are seen. Western blot or dot line, lines only are seen. This is O positive, this is Re positive, this is Hu positive. Here it is cell-based assay. Cell-based assay. This is an ELISA. This is an ELISA method. Detection of neuronal autoantibodies in the clinical laboratory. This is the antibody, patient's antibody, which is made to react with the mouse section, mouse brain section for immunohistochemistry and immunofluorescence. This is a fluorescence result showing the hippocampus of the brain, mouse brain. This shows that Western blot and line blot, these lines are, these are controls positive. This is Hu antibody positive. This Yo antibody positive, and this is Re antibody positive. Next one is cell-based assay. This antibody reacts with the cells, cell-based assay. Another method is detection of antibody by ELISA. The color shows the positive reaction, color. This is an ELISA plate. Autoantibodies and methods for the detection in the clinical laboratory. Neuronal antigens are classified in 3 groups. Intracellular antigens, neuronal surface antigens, and neuromuscular junction or channel antigen. Antibodies to intracellular antigens are detected by ELISA and Western blot. Antibodies to surface antigen, neuronal cell surface are detected by cell-based assay. And antibodies to neuromuscular junction detected by radioimmunoassay. These intracellular antigens we detect are ANA1, ANA2, ANA3, CRIMP5, MATA, AGNA, PCA1, PCA2, PCA-TR, GAD65, ampifysin, and recovery. Cell-based assay, the antibodies are NMDA receptor antibody, LGI1, Casper2 antibody, GABA-B antibody, mGlu-R1, mGlu-R5. And radioimmunoassay, neuromuscular junction, it is VGCC, ganglionic acetylcholine receptor, DPPX, and aquaporin. Aquaporin 4. This slide shows tissue-based indirect immunofluorescence and also immunohistochemistry methodology. This is the rat source of substrate antigen. This is mouse brain. Sections are here. Sections are treated with patient serum or CSF, washed, and a conjugate is added here. And secondary, this is the secondary antibody, anti-human IgG, and it washed and it is visualized under the fluorescent microscope. This is IFA, immunofluorescence of AMPA receptor. This is of AMPA receptor. AMPA receptor. This is NMDA receptor. This is GABA A receptor, Casper, and IgLone antibody, LGI1. Here it is mGlu-R1, mGlu-R5. These are immunofluorescence on brain tissue showing Hu antibody. Hu antibody is neuronal nuclear antibody staining. This is Yo antibody. This is Purkinje cell cytoplasm only is stained. Sri antibody, Purkinje cell cytoplasm plus non-neural stomach will be stained. This is GAD antibody, cell-based assay. Advantages of this is antigens are in their native form, can screen many autoantibodies at the same time, can discover new antibodies. These are the advantages of tissue-based indirect immunofluorescence assay. This is another method of enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay for the detection of neuronal antibodies. Again, mouse brain sections are there. Protein is purified. It's coated on the ELISA plate. It's blocked. Unreacted sites are blocked with base BSA, bovine serum albumin. And the patient serum is added here. It gets reacted to the antigen, washed, and anti-human HRP. It's enzyme linked. HRP added, washed, and the substrate is added. The color change can be noticed, and the absorbance is measured using ELISA plate reader. The advantages are increased sensitivity and specificity compared to IFA, less subjective than IFA. This is another method of antibody detection by Western blot or line blot testing. Here again, mouse brain antigen, mouse brain protein is isolated, purified, and it undergoes electrophoresis, SDS page electrophoresis, in order to separate the protein based on the molecular weight. And the protein is transferred to a nitrocellulose membrane and treated. This is the assay. It's treated with patient's serum, washed, then treated with secondary antibody, anti-human HRP, washed, and the substrate is added. Then the color develops. The result is visual. We can see the color bands are seen like this. Bands are seen. Positive shows a band. Advantages are can screen for and identify multiple antibodies at the same time, increase sensitivity and specificity compared to IFA. This is the best method in neuroimmunology, cell-based assay. Here, specific mouse brain recombinant antigen is transfected to human embryonic cell, kidney cell, fixed on the slide, transfection. Then this is treated with patient serum, incubated with patient serum or CSF, then washed, and the secondary antibody, anti-human FITC is added here, washed, and it's seen under fluorescent microscope. NMDA will look like this, and the AMPA cells will be look like this, and GABA cells will be seen like this. The advantages are antigens are in their native form, less subjective than IFA, requires less training for proficiency, very sensitive and specific method for detecting antibodies against many of the cell surface antigens. This is an experimental study, proof for an pathogenicity of antibody. As a study. Okay. Myasthenia gravis patient serum is passively transferred, antibody is passively transferred from patient to mouse by intraperitoneal injection. This is the control animal which received IgG antibody from a healthy patient, healthy person. And this is the animal which received diseased LRP antibody positive patients IgG. You can see the difference. You can see antibody LRP antibody injected mouse shows features of the disease. These publications have come out in Science journal. This is our brochure. 2013, when we started our lab, this is our front page of our post. Neuro-immunology Laboratory Investigations Catalog. These are the services we do for patients, inpatients, outpatients, and all the patients from all over India. We get samples. Acetylcholine receptor antibody, autoimmune encephalitis panel, autoimmune atypical Parkinsonism, autoimmune epilepsy profile, autoimmune dementia optimized, autoimmune dementia extended, CNS inflammation evaluation panel, DPPX antibody, GAT65 antibody in serum and CSF, GABA A receptor antibody in serum and CSF, ganglioside antibody, IgG and IgM together, ganglioside combi, GFAP antibody in serum, glycine receptor antibody in serum, HOMR3 antibody in serum, serum and CSF, Igilon 5 antibody in serum and CSF. Next, mGlu R1 antibody in serum and CSF, mGlu R5 antibody in serum and CSF, multiple sclerosis evaluation panel in spared serum and CSF, MuSK antibody in serum, MAG antibody in serum, NMOSD antibody in serum and നിന്ന് പോയി സാറ്. NMOSD antibody in serum and CSF, NMDR antibody receptor in serum and CSF, NMO-IgG in serum and CSF, paraneoplastic panel of neuronal antibodies in serum and CSF, 1433 protein gamma quantitation in CSF, recoverin antibody in serum and CSF, striated muscle antibody in serum, titin antibody in serum, BGKC antibody in serum and CSF, BGCC IgG in serum, SICA4 antibody serum and CSF. A total of 53 tests we are doing 63 numbers of investigations. These are the publications related to Neuro-immunology Laboratory. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see these are the publications last 2013 to 2020. This slide shows NMDA receptor antibodies seen under fluorescent microscope. This is tissue-based and this is cell-based, and these are the negative controls. This is LGI1 and Casper antibodies. LGI1, the hippocampus, LGI1 cerebellum is stained. In Casper, the hippocampus is stained. These are the negative controls. Shows no reaction. AMPA receptor antibody, it's a tissue-based assay. Positive staining of the hippocampus is seen. Anti-neuronal nuclear antibodies, anti-Hu antibody. This is a tissue-based assay showing positive staining of neuronal nuclear cells. These are our neuronal nuclear antibodies stained. And this is non-neuronal tissue, plexus mandricus of intestine, mouse intestine, also shows a positive reaction. The associated tumor is small cell lung carcinoma. This slide shows a Purkinje cell cytoplasmic autoantibody, otherwise anti-Yo antibody. It's a tissue-based assay, shows positive staining of cytoplasm of Purkinje cells. Associated tumor is breast and uterine cancer. Associated nuclear deficit, neuronal deficits are cerebellar ataxia. This is PCA2 type 2, Purkinje cell cytoplasmic autoantibody type 2, tissue-based assay, shows positive staining of Purkinje cell cytoplasm extending to the dendrites. This is GABA-B receptor antibody. This is again a tissue-based assay. Positive staining is seen in the hippocampus and cerebellum, granular layer of the cerebellum. This is immunofluorescent staining of a positive amphiphysin antibody. Tissue-based assay showing positive granular layer shows a positive reaction. This is again a CRIMP antibody positive, tissue-based assay showing white matter staining. Granular layer is not stained. This is white matter staining, shows this CRIMP antibody positive. Growth of Neuro-immunology Laboratory from 2013 to 2022. This is the first dedicated neuroimmunology laboratory started in India in 2013, AIIMS Kochi. Started with 5 tests. Now more than 50 tests are introduced. Started with 2 staff in 100 square feet area, 6th tower, 3rd floor. Now the staff number is 6 with fully furnished laboratory in Nalanda building, 7th floor. This is again growth of neuroimmunology laboratory from 2013 to 22. We get samples from all over India, all the states of India. This is our 2013 staff, 2013, Anand Angada Sudhiran sir, myself and Anuja. Now, this is the recent photo. This is our laboratory in Nalanda building, and the staff is 5 staff, including me, 6. Neuro-immunology laboratory mobile ID. Our on-call number is shown here. Our email ID is there. Our website is there. Our marketing staff team. Mr. V.K. Srinivasan from Bangalore. Senix Life Sciences is the name of our marketing team. Conclusion. Autoimmune neurology is the 21st century specialty. Its spectrum is very wide. It's expanding rapidly. It's often mistaken as neurodegenerative disorders. Immunobiomarkers are very important in diagnosis. Early diagnosis and treatment is very important. A great role is there for a dedicated neuroimmunology laboratory for the future.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, now we have some questions in the chat box.
Okay. Question ഉണ്ടോ?
Which is more sensitive or immunized, which has a better diagnosis, protein-based. This is one problem.
Which is better for diagnosis, protein-based assay or line blot? Protein-based assay, cell-based assay. ഞാൻ പ്രോട്ടീൻ വെസ്റ്റേൺ ബ്ലോട്ട് ആയിരിക്കും അല്ലേ?
പ്രോട്ടീൻ-based assay ആണല്ലോ.
വെസ്റ്റേൺ
ലൈൻ ബ്ലോട്ട് വേഴ്സസ് ഡോട്ട് ബ്ലോട്ട് അതാണ് ചോദിക്കുന്നത്.
Western blot is better. That's one. Western blot methodology is the better one.
Sensitive. ELISA or IHC?
ELISA is sensitive, more sensitive. Can measure up to picogram level.
Cell-based assay is gold standard.
Yes.
Any situation where cell not preferred.
Cell-based
assays are not preferred.
Situations. That is intracellular, neuronal intracellular antigens does not pick up cell-based assay. Only surface, neuronal surface antigens only pick up cell-based assay.
The clinical question.
Could you
ELISA, better diagnosis, protein-based. Answer it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now we'll be moving on to the next talk.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Okay, so good morning to everyone present in this meeting. I take great pleasure in addressing you today about something that's very close to my heart, neuroimmunology. I'm Dr. Chirag Sunil Lalwani, who is a house surgeon at Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences. My email and contact information LinkedIn profile is given in the QR code below in case you want to contact me later. I just want to start off this speech by saying or by reminding you of one thing. You don't have to have it all figured out to start moving forward. So my journey is going to consist of 4 parts. One is I'm going to talk about the issues I faced in the beginning, and then how I started understanding the field of research itself. And next, what I set my goals as and what I wanted to do in the future in MBBS in college. And lastly, how sometimes research can be like really rewarding. So let's start off with the first part, starting trouble. I felt like this character in The Office, Michael Scott, who once said, sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way. This phase involved a lot of learning for me because we had to deal with how to start writing a research protocol, how we can start analyzing data and collecting the data, and most importantly, how we can finish writing the paper. So the research protocol mainly involved a lot of, trying to seek inspiration from everywhere, constantly questioning things, constantly generating new ideas. And then you'll probably go to your mentor or your guide then and ask them about the practicality, whether we will be able to do this in a resource limited country like India or in a resource limited hospital, no matter where we are in India. And always adhere to their advice because they are always like, they always know what data can be presented and what can be like taken in a short amount of time, or, because we always have time limitations, right? We're students. So we have to be, mindful about the amount of time we can dedicate to research as well. Next, we move on to data collection. And it sounds really cool, data collection, and but it's just a very painstaking and slow process filled with a lot of irregularities. And sooner or later, I started realizing that I needed to prioritize efficiency more than speed. And also, with time, I started realizing what significance my data is trying to convey to the particular paper I'm trying to do. And finally, we have the dreaded scientific paper writing, which actually requires you to have a good grip of English literature and grammar, because the language you see online in each paper is very different with what you're used to writing in college or essay writing or anything. And ultimately, you need to convey that you are excited by the paper you're doing and it holds some importance in today's world and will, make an impact. So for example, I put the slide in just to show you, this is my first paper that I ever did in college, I think in first year towards the end. And this was a methodology that I'd written back then. And I had absolutely no idea. So you can see there's not a lot of structure in it. There's no regularity. There's no continuity and a lot of grammatic and spelling errors. But now we've reached a phase where of course, the formatting is different, but even the regularity, the continuity is all better. There's still a long way to go, but I just want to highlight the fact that the more papers you do, the better you'll get adjusted and understand how to do it better, or the more articles you read, that's how much better you'll get sooner or later. And I just wanted to but point out to one thing. How many papers do you think it took me before I, published my first paper? It wasn't I did my first paper and I published one paper. No, things are not that easy in research. I had to do I'd written 3 manuscripts, like whole manuscripts, before I could even publish one. Because when you're writing something, you start realizing that, this is not possible, or maybe this is not sticking to the ethics of our hospital, or you might find a myriad of reasons to not be able to publish it. So although it is very demotivating, I would advise you to stay persistent and keep doing it, because sooner or later you'll definitely get your breakthrough. So next we move on to the phase where I started understanding more about the research field itself. And I had to unlearn and relearn constantly. And part of this process involved seeking discomfort in the form of advice and critique on whatever you've already written and worked so hard with. So this basically involves you going to your mentors, to your guides, to your seniors, even your juniors, if they are more, if they are more knowledgeable in this aspect, and understanding what you can do better to make your paper better. And just because you always stuck to one research methodology doesn't mean you need to continue that throughout. Maybe today you can write a review article, maybe tomorrow you could go for a cohort study. It doesn't need to be the same always. And there's absolutely no point if you seek advice and not implement those changes in the future. And always stay curious and read more articles online, or learn new ways to convey data. Like, for example, you could convey one thing in a bar graph, but the same thing in a pie chart would make more sense, just as an example basis. And I'd always been asked this question as to how I got more opportunities. And my answer's always been the same. I worked hard on every single paper I did. And yes, it did not get published initially, but my guides and my mentors noticed that I was working hard. So the next time they wanted to start a paper, they would approach me and see if I was interested to take up a new paper. And my answer was almost always yes, because it didn't matter to me which subject it was as long as I was doing research, because I do have an inclination towards it. So I want to highlight another fact here. In this screenshot, you can focus here. There are 29 folders in this, 29 different folders in this folder itself. And all of these are separate research papers. What I want to highlight, and the amount of officially published research articles for me currently stands at, I think, 11. And here there are 29 items. So what I want to highlight here is that you will work on a lot of papers, but it's not necessary that every paper of yours will get published. Okay. See, for example, you can see in this itself, aplastic anemia failed, MVP-MR failed. MVP-MR was my first paper, actually. So even though it didn't work out to be published and to be officially counted, even those failures will teach you a lot, because without these failures, I wouldn't have been able to publish so many. Next, we move on to this phase where I started focusing on what my goals were. So back when I started MBBS, my goal was to do neuro-focused research, at least towards the end of, once I'm used to understanding how to do one paper, I would love to contribute to academia. So I think in internship, I'd approached my principal, our former principal, Dr. Vishal, and conveyed my interest to him. And him being so, humble and, motivational, he asked me to go meet Dr. Sudhiran, because he knew I was like really attached to neuroimmunology. And I struck gold, because I met a professor who was so humble, so patient with me, and he always held my hand and just like taught me everything. Even if it was wrong, he wouldn't scold me. He just keep on advising as to how I can do it better next time. And I learned just so much from him. Like, he's such a down-to-earth man. I just want to take this opportunity to thank him personally. And at one point, I was doing like 4 papers, like in neurology, like in internship. So it was getting very tough to manage, because, of course, there were some shortcomings from my end too, because like my mind was in 4 different areas at once. But I realized that the only way this is possible for us to work on multiple papers is to set deadlines for ourselves. Otherwise, we'll just keep procrastinating and we'll never end the paper. And also celebrate every tiny thing you're doing. Because like, for example, if you finish a paper, celebrate it. If you get a paper under review or published, celebrate it. So Sudhiran sir always, motivated me like this to keep on working for new papers and just not give up, because research is a very, very slow process and it's very painstaking. For example, I completed my papers, like 3 papers of neurology in the month of April or May 2022. And 1 paper even in Jan 2022. And it's been almost a year since some papers are under review or they've been rejected by one journal and we're going to the next journal. So you're not always going to get, that acceptance, because these are like international journals who need to, put really good papers out there. So it's going to take some effort, but once it is published, it's definitely worth it. So as I said, we should always celebrate our success, no matter how small it is. And sometimes, like, research is not generally known to go with gratification normally, but sometimes you do get rewarded. And I got rewarded in the form of this invitation, which was sent to us by the American Academy of Neurology. It was an invitation to present 3 of our papers that we'd been working on in the internship year, and to be presented at San Francisco this July. And this was an absolutely big deal and honor for me, Sudhiran sir, the entire college, because this was a conference focused fully on And this only happened because Sudhiran sir just like told me one fine day in April 2022 that, why don't you just go ahead? It's free of cost anyways. Let's just see how we do. And I completely forgot about it until I got this invitation letter. And thanks to the blessings of everyone involved in this, namely Dr. Hamsini Moba, Dr. Tushara, Dr. Anjali, Dr. Fida, who worked with me on several papers that we presented here, which were 3 in number, we were able to make it to this conference. And the best part of this conference was meeting people like this doctor here, Dr. Amy Kunchuk. The poster you see behind us is actually the poster we presented on dual positive NMOSD. And Dr. Amy Kunchuk is was part of the team that led the first paper on dual positive NMOSD at the Mayo Clinic. And our paper was the second paper, which was an extension of her paper. And I just saw her, come towards our poster and take a look and everything. So I approached her and I asked her, ma'am, would you like me to go through this paper with you? And she's like, oh, no. I just read my name and your references. So we were all very shocked because I genuinely didn't know that this was Dr. Amy Kunchuk, but it was such an absolute honor to meet her. And she was like so delighted that, someone from India with the resource limitations that we generally have could make an extension of the study and produce significant numbers. And our data was corroborating with the Mayo Clinic one, so that was even better for us. Next, we have Dr. Angela Vincent in the middle. So Dr. Sudhiran had mentioned her in the first presentation that he just spoke recently. She is the founder, one of the founders of autoimmune neurology, right? So she basically named this disease MuSK-positive myasthenia gravis. And our poster in the back was actually about dual positivity for myasthenia gravis. So we had this 80-year-old woman, so energetic, and she comes, she reads everything from our paper. She stands for a good 20 minutes reading every single data set that we had put. It was nerve-wracking, and she offered so much valuable critique. Sometimes she may not even have agreed with some of our findings, which is completely okay because this is part of the scientific process. And this conference gave us the opportunity to do something like this and network and stay in contact with people like this. So this is an experience that I'll probably never forget. So the key takeaways from this journey was that 1, patience, persistence, and humility will take you a very long way. 2, seek critique and constantly unlearn and relearn. 3, embrace teamwork. This is so underrated because I've seen a lot of my colleagues just try to do one paper all by themselves. It can't work out, but the amount of time you require to do one paper is so much. Instead, have a group of friends or have 1 or 2 people you trust so much and do it with them. See, for example, the 4 papers I was doing, first 2 weeks, I would, solely stick on the research protocol. The next 2 weeks on the data collection. In between, I'll start the research protocol for the second paper. And this is only because I had other people who were so keen on helping as well as being a part of this and contributing to academia. So I was really lucky to have such good people beside me. And also juniors, you get to teach them and they teach you new things too. It's not just one-sided, And the most important is always stay curious. I know research is a little slow and boring sometimes, and it's difficult to keep yourselves motivated. But I think in the long run, it's definitely worth it, especially if you're trying to apply abroad. Now, a lot of people ask me why, I'm so behind neurology, because even in school, I just knew that I wanted to do neurology. And I really hope in the future that I can pursue my dream. But this is the reason why I wanted to do neurology. So that's my mom and dad. My mom suffered from MS since I was a kid. Diagnosed in 2005 at a time when MS was barely known in India, she and my father faced an obstacle that would become a lifelong challenge. She developed optic neuritis in 2005. A few years later, she would develop mobility issues, and soon she was completely bedridden. My dad transformed himself into one of the best caregivers anyone could ever ask for. He sacrificed his life, his career, his recreation, his hobbies, anything and everything possible to take care of my mom and take care of my education and help me become what I wanted to become. And meanwhile, what felt like a temporary issue for my mother, for a 7-year-old kid, that is me, soon started defining my identity and what my ambitions were going to become. So that's why I wanted to focus on helping people in the field of neurology, especially if I can contribute something in the field of MS, because I have a personal agenda with it. And unfortunately, a few months back, my mother succumbed to this illness. However, she left this world knowing that she did the best for me with whatever options she was given. She left knowing that I've officially become a doctor. She left knowing that I'm ready to take the next step and pursue neurology. She left knowing that my team's work in neurology was starting to be recognized halfway across the world. And after all, she left knowing that her grace, persistence, determination, and courage gave strength to me, my dad, and countless others who have touched our lives. My mom and dad continue to be my inspiration, and I see no better way to honor her than to help people in treating MS, or rather anything in neurology, or even contributing to its academia. My journey may have just started, but I wouldn't have been able to reach here without the blessings of everyone who's taught me something or allowed me to ask or bug them with silly questions at times. Special thanks to my dad, Dr. Sudhiran, Dr. Annama Madam, Dr. Vishal Sir, former principal of Amrita, Dr. Kirish, current principal of Amrita, and my college, my friends, my family for constantly supporting me and having my back. Thank you. This is my contact information in case you have any questions.
Thank you, Chirag. We have one question for you.
Is it in the chat box?
Yeah, it's in the
Okay. During which step in research can we know which research topic is good and which is not? Okay, so I am not sure what you mean by which step, but it's a very good question because a lot of people ask me this. The thing is, you will only know whether the research paper is practical to do or not once you discuss it with your mentor, because they have a good idea as to what is possible within our domain or not. And like Dr. Sudhiran sir constantly gave me inspiration for research ideas because he has so many things in his mind. But otherwise, you can think about, check the EMR in our hospital and see, what all data sets are available in normally all cases. I hope that answers your question. Next, I would really love to work with you. Oh yeah, just contact me via email or LinkedIn or any of the social media platforms. We'll see what we can do about that.
Thank you, Chirag, for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm honored and lucky to have the opportunity to give the vote of thanks today. Firstly, I would like to thank all the speakers for their valuable time. We have learned a great deal and are very much grateful for your knowledge. Thank you. Next, I would like to thank all the organizing teams, volunteers, teachers, and staff members. And finally, I want to thank all the participants for making this event a grand success. Thank you.